Hey guys, Jensen here once again, and there were some interesting games in the first day of the group stage, and with Worlds on the way, I think it's time to go into more analysis as to what's happening here at the 2022 League of Legends World Championship. Now, the big news surrounding Evil Geniuses as they went into their playoff run was that AD Carry Danny was swapped out for Kaori as an emergency sub. With regards to the rulings and those details, I'm not going to go so much into it and instead focus on how this changes the team identity and perhaps can create some hopium for one of the NA teams at Worlds. The game against JDG was definitely close, where I think EG was in a winning position, but let's take a deeper look into Evil Genius' style of play and try to evaluate what this might mean for them in the future. Mid laner inspired in Jojo definitely have been the standout carries on this team thus far. However, there's some things to be noted about their champion pools and the way that they approach the game. Jojo with his LeBlanc, Kali, and Silas, he tends to do best when he has access to support and jungle influence to enable his playstyle, which tends to trade very aggressively in lane and play off wave states that will want to invite the support and jungle to contribute to its mid lane and influence that as 2v2 or 3v3. Whereas Inspired, when he played on Rogue and did well with them in Season 11, he did the best on farming junglers, with the likes of Lilia, Viego, Udyr, and Hecarim being his most played at a point of time. Now definitely, as necessitates all teams, they definitely have found ways to compensate for that, with LeBlanc and Lee Sin being a big stay of their Spring Split, and Viego being something that Inspire has added onto his pool as well. Or Viego being a champion that suits both the farming style and can being able to influence mid lane as well. However, if you were to look at the overall roster of Evil Geniuses at MSI, the mid lane and bot lane, both requiring jungle influence, is something that negatively impacts the team overall. And this was something that was shown in their games against G2, with the likes of the Anivia being picked against by Caps against Japan's Rise, abusing the fact that EG was not able to provide the necessary resources to build out the mid laner in certain scenarios. However, with this change of Kaori being added into the bot lane, and the champion pool of Caitlyn, Varus, and Nephilos being shown at the World Championship so far, this changes the identity of Evil Geniuses, with them now still staying with a self-sufficient top, and with them wanting to facilitate the mid jungle as a whole. But now bot lane, instead of being a source of resource consumption, they are a source of pressure generation as well, as they are now able to naturally get priority 2v2 and enable the support to contribute on the map. Kaori has been an interesting player. So far, in an interview, Vulcan could be quoted as saying that Danny was carrying the late game, while Kaori is carrying the early game. And this reflects in the way that he has performed on Champions as well, with him getting 2 wins when he played Lucian against 100 Thieves, scoring a significant lead 2v2 prior to jungle pressure with the likes of Caitlyn in their game against Fnatic, and scoring a 2v2 solo kill with the Varus against JDG. However, while this is able to highlight his strengths as a player and how this can contribute to his EG, Kaori is not the perfect player altogether. His performances on Sivir have been rather middling and average, and given the way the champion has been overall passable. However, his mid to late game decision making has been rather weak at times, and his team fighting is questionable as well, as when he plays Zeri in the series against 100 Thieves, he was given opportunities where a superior AD carry would have been able to clutch up and carry from the position that he was in. So, can EG escape Group B? With Kaori being added to the roster, this has created a coherent team identity for them. And if you were to think about it, this actually matches up quite well against the opposition, as the bot lanes of G2, Dom1, and JDG are unlikely to skill check this approach through bot lane itself. And with the way the meta is panning out, with tanky, heavy bruisers, and a focus more towards Strix and Heralds, the bruiser-centric fights, where all of these tend to be map control-centric teams, all of the EG's slight weaknesses in these areas can kind of be compensated for in the slight disconnects between support and jungle, allowing more time for them to be in position to bring numbers and match the fight accordingly. However, you could say that EG might have a problem in terms of dimensionality, with them, while finding a coherent team identity, they might not be able to adapt as the meta might shift, as Worlds always does. And thus, I might be concerned for them in the second round, as teams, after playing them once, will have a better idea of what to expect and make compensations in draft, perhaps such as banning Gangplank, that will help them deal with EG's game plan better. And also, the mid 2v2, while now Vulcan might have access to the map, it still can be a concern, as this is a means of play that all three teams, G2, Damwon, and JDG, are proficient at, with names such as Showmaker, Kanavi, and Yankos on these opposing teams. EG can still perhaps be skill checked in these areas, and might be an area in which that they lose games. My personal take on it is that should EG want to escape Group B, they probably would want to find a 2-1 record, which means that they have to find wins against both G2 and Damwon before the end of the first round robin, for them to have a strong chance of making out of Group B. I currently have a Patreon, and you can find the link in the description of this video, where I post questions and do VOR review worksheets such as this. I'll give you the map state and post you the question, what will you do if you're RNG? You can then evaluate these options, state your reasoning, and at the end of the week or the start of the next week, I will then release the answers with the workings explaining why certain choices were better than the other. If you enjoyed this type of content, please do leave a like on this video, leave a comment letting you know what you think EG's hopes and chances are of making it out of Group B, which is definitely the group of death at this World Championship. And of course, your support is much appreciated. Get hyped for Worlds.